Politico.com reported that a wellness CEO just filed an ethics complaint against top RFK Jr. advisor Calley in what's turning out to be a Maha battle. Joining me today is the author of that complaint, CEO of the wellness company, Peter Gillooly. Welcome to the Gateway Pundit.
Thanks for having me, Elijah.
Okay, so under my impression from what I read from the story, you received a pretty important phone call this past Saturday in the early AM hours Eastern Standard Time from someone under the name of Calley. This seems a little bit out of the ordinary, having a government advisor call a private CEO about a complaint. Tell me a little bit about what this call was about and what he said when he called you.
Yeah, thanks, Elijah. So I was as shocked as I think you are to hear that Calley was calling me on a Saturday morning. He called immediately and launched into a kind of profanity-laced tirade about spreading misinformation about his company, TrueMed, which I found to be very odd. I'd never talked to Calley in my life, nor have I talked about TrueMed once publicly. He alleged that I was leaking information to Laura Loomer, who he had gotten into scraps about last week with his sister, Casey Means, who has just been nominated to the position of Surgeon General. He immediately, in the first 5 minutes of calling me, not only threatened to sue the shit out of me, he threatened to go directly to Bobby and Jay Bhattacharya and make my life miserable. And it was from that point where I realized that something was very, very wrong.
Okay, so I know the transcript of this call is publicly available in the ethics complaint, but I think it's important for people to understand sort of where the red flags begin to arise. You know, this is just a Saturday morning. This call is, out of the blue. You get a phone call from Calley, again, connected to government officials. He's working, at least in part, with the United States government. He's still allowed to have private, interests and private involvement in his own company, but he makes accusations that you're working with Laura Loomer and leaking information to her. And I want to clarify, are you leaking information directly to Laura Loomer?
No, and nor have I ever spoke to Laura Loomer in my life.
So that's a pretty bold claim then. I know you said it was also profanity laced, but what struck me odd was that he didn't just claim that he was going to sue you, which could be a fair, statement that someone could make in private business. He claimed that he was then going to take this case and bring it into official government conversation and make complaints to Bobby himself, the HHS secretary. What was that about?
Honestly, I can only surmise. He mentioned multiple times in his tirade that there are political dynamics that I don't understand. I still, to this moment, do not understand what those political dynamics might be. But I found it very odd that he would switch multiple times in his accusations between representing TrueMed, the company, as a co-founder and kind of acting as a government official in his capacity as a special advisor to HHS. Right.
So as a journalist, I know it's not only unethical, but it's not standard for a government official to call a private CEO and to make threats to get the government involved in a internal or a personal dispute. So do you think that Bobby and Bhattacharya are involved in this in any way? Or do you think that Calley is acting as a rogue employee of the state?
I think Calley is acting as a rogue actor here, Elijah. I don't think there's any way that Bobby or President Trump, for that matter, would condone or support this sort of behavior. And I expect that they're going to take swift action to remedy the situation. This is completely unacceptable. And this is the kind of stuff we'd expect to see under the Biden administration.
Yeah, so this is kind of one of the things that struck me as odd was that he also brought his sister into the conversation. He attacked some associates that are affiliated with either you or your colleagues, Kelly Victory, as well as Dr. Peter McCullough. And he sort of packaged them in saying, an odd phrase that, well, this is sort of showbiz, right? This is sort of a theatrical thing going on. He also mentioned his sister didn't even want to be a Surgeon General. It struck me quite odd, these choice of words. Can you talk to me a little bit about this part of the conversation, what was going through your head and what you think he meant by that?
My head was spinning at that point. So Dr. Kelly Victory is obviously has a very, very pristine pedigree. She's been practicing medicine for over 30 years. She's been medical director at major United States corporations. Her record is impeccable. Now, unfortunately, she was passed over for the Surgeon General nomination. And I think perhaps Calley attributes that as a motive for some of the backlash that he and his sister have experienced on social media over the past week. But he kind of went into a weird tangent on his sister not wanting to be Surgeon General, but that's showbiz. Now, I don't know what that means, but it really seemed like he was really trivializing the position of Surgeon General within the United States government, which, I mean, it's a very important job. That's the nation's top doctor, the spokesperson for the medical community.
Yeah, it seems like a weird parallel to take showbiz, which we know, one actress gets passed up for the other. And you don't make a big deal about it whether Jennifer Aniston got the position or not. But Surgeon General isn't just a acting position; it's a very serious, important, procedural position that actually impacts everyday lives of Americans. And he seems to let you know, look, whatever issues you guys have with my family, remember it's just show business. Meaning, are they really serious? Do you believe that this was an indication that perhaps they view the government positions just like that, like they're in show business?
It sure sounds like that. And I think to trivialize a position as important as the Surgeon General really tells you about how high regard they hold these roles in, and makes you wonder really who's controlling what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and another odd position that I think was what really was a red flag was when Calley began to talk about his company, TrueMed, about being able to save your company money. He used actual percentages. If we'd work together, you could save 30 to 40%. I'm not in the medical product business. Can you explain that as somebody who's unfamiliar with what he was talking about what that meant to you?
Yeah, that caught me off guard as well, Elijah. So TrueMed is a company that offers letters of medical necessity that allows consumers to use their HSA or FSA accounts to buy things that ordinarily wouldn't be eligible, like a doctor visit. So you could use your HSA money, for instance, for supplements like the wellness company offers. Now, I don't offer that service today at the wellness company, but Calley thought it was appropriate to mention during the call that it might be a good idea for me to work with him on that at the wellness company, which I don't know. It sounded a bit like extortion to me, and just set me off the wrong way.
Right. And I know that he was kind of insinuating, at least I partook from it. If you are able to call some associates you are involved with, if you can drop this immediately, which again, you deny even having any involvement yourself, but if you can somehow drop what he's accusing you of, then he can possibly make you more money, which to me in my business, in media, we call that blackmail. So I don't know what you'd make of that, but that seems like I'm either going to cause problems for you and get the government involved, or B, we can let this go away and I'll make you rich. To me, that's both unfair business practice, but also absolute ethics violation from a government official. Is that what this was mainly about, or if not, what was it?
100%. And I use that exact phrase in my ethics complaint. This is blackmail. And a government official should never be acting in this capacity. And to be frank, it made me extremely uncomfortable. I felt like I needed to report this immediately. Calley went on through the course of the day to call me 4 or 5 additional times. I did not answer. He also sent me a numerous number of text messages. He was very, very urgently trying to fix something, and I'm not sure what.
So obviously we have a lack of accountability the last 4 years in the Biden administration. It's been one of the biggest problems that we've seen. And, quite frankly, even the first Trump administration, a lot of people wanted more accountability from what happened during, Obama's years, and we didn't really get that. So when you file an ethics complaint, some of your critics claim, this is, again, like show business. This is sort of for the, presentation that you have force or show force. But you seem, when I spoke to you off air, to be very concerned, not just for yourself, but whether or not something like this would happen to other people who maybe don't have the resources you have, aren't as connected as you are, that might be bullied and pressured by the government. Explain to me a little bit about what you feel like this sets as a precedent, having this confrontation with someone that, quite frankly, you probably thought was more on your side or on the side of the people until you had this conversation.
100%. And I am fully behind Maha and MAGA. And to think that an individual like this would go and bully somebody to try to get them to use their medical services, it sets a terrible, terrible precedent. So I don't know if there are other companies that have also been victim out there. I mean, obviously, TrueMed has many clients, but I wanted to take a stand for myself and for the rest of the health and wellness industry to say that we can't tolerate this in our government, and we don't like corruption when it comes to Maha.
Right. And I think to give Laura Loomer some credit, I do know her, you don't. I haven't worked with her in any serious capacity in terms of in journalism, but I do know that she has a lot of sources. And the fact is that sometimes when people come with this sort of accusatory language, oh, you're setting me up, you're trying to tarnish my reputation, it sometimes is an admission of guilt. At least that's what we do in this discipline. We go, well, sounds like that person's guilty of something. Now, because this is not an accusatory show, we're not a court of law, we're not going to make any claims or say that Calley is doing anything illegal or even anything questionable. But coming at you with that sort of claim, do you have any inclination on why he took Laura's research and instead came after you and claimed as a CEO that you're the one responsible and your company's responsible for bad-mouthing him, when in reality, it was the entire internet the last week. So it seems weird that he would single you out. Do you know why?
The only reason that I could speculate is the fact that Dr. Victory was passed up on the nomination. Obviously, it was the internet's rumor that it was down to her and his own sister, Casey, and Casey won the nomination. So I think when he experienced that pushback, and look, Laura's a vocal critic. She's an aggressive journalist, and she'll call as she sees it. She was quoted in that Political article as doing her own research, which is exactly what I think she did on this. And even as recently as Friday night, she had Dr. Mary Talley Bowden of Houston on her show for over an hour discussing TrueMed and Casey Means. So maybe he was just trying to lash out. I don't know, but I had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, lastly, I want to point out in sort of a decorum faux pas, you might call it, in the transcript, it was very, very clear that he was, ripping into Calley, sort of denigrating her character, calling her names and insinuating, basically doubting her credibility. And that makes me wonder behind the scenes when we are dealing with, sensitive picks like the Surgeon General, if that's the kind of advice that's going into the ears of Bobby Kennedy, that's going into the ears of Bhattacharya, that's what they're hearing about someone who, like Calley, who's so well awarded. Do you feel like that's some sign that maybe behind the scenes things weren't handled professionally and maybe she was looked over because of slander like that? If it happened to you on a phone call, why would we not expect that to have happened in personal or private meetings at a government level?
Absolutely. And we can only speculate what those conversations actually were, Elijah. But there's one thing Calley Victory is not, and it's delusional, which is the word that Calley used to describe her. Calley Victory is one of the most outstanding doctors I've ever had the privilege of meeting and working with. And she has been so outspoken and so right on so many issues over the past 5 years that I think we could use more doctors like her in the country.
So then lastly, when you file an ethics complaint like this, what are you expecting or what do you think would be a proper course of action? And who do you think would it be that would take action to let the American public know that accountability starts at the top? We're not going to accept this in the private sector, in the public sector, or right now between the public and the private, because obviously, this is dangerous. This could go towards a fascist, precedent where private entities align with the government and you get this sort of bullying practice to push their policy. We don't want that as Americans. We are a republic. We are in many ways a liberal democracy that's developed from that. And we don't believe in a government ruled top down on top of the people, but a government by the people. So as a private CEO and somebody who's not a public figure, what would you say is a good recourse against Calley for doing what I believe we all see is definitely a unethical move?
Yeah, to be clear, I'm not looking for an apology. I'm looking for a resignation. And if Calley was my employee, I would fire him. And that's what I think that Bobby and President Trump need to do.
Fair enough. Well, Peter Gillooly, the CEO of Wellness Company, I appreciate you coming on so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. The rest of you guys watching, thank you so much again for watching a special segment here on the Gateway Pundit. Don't forget that if you want to support independent media and journalism, you can always join our website directly as a member. And when you join, you get one of these awesome fancy mugs at our mug club. They are embossed, they are high quality. And as you read the morning paper, as I say, or you read our articles, you can sip a cup of tea or coffee with us every morning while supporting the truth coming out. Thank you so much again for supporting. Again, my name is Elijah Schaefer. Have a great rest of the week. We'll see you next time. May God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.